versions of all my pieces, the in-tune version and the out-of-tune version. Pet E was a little out. Sorry, gang. I tried to pull it back into tune most of the time that I hit it, but there were a lot of open ones. So I used to play that piece right-handed. And did you guys see my dystonia getting in the way of anything I was doing with this hand? Not really. The fact is, I'm just playing a really simple bass line, aren't I? One, 6, 4, 5. It's just A major, F sharp minor, D, and E major. And I'm just playing just a simple bass line with that hand. It's not requiring, the piece itself isn't requiring anything more from that hand. So I'm using what I've got to make music at the level that I can. Now this style of playing is one of those styles where you really have to commit to hitting these notes, don't you? Did you guys hear me miss a few notes? Sure. And you know what happens when you miss a few notes? You miss them pretty big in this style because you really have to commit to hitting that string hard enough to get it to resonate, right? And I was trying to figure out what note that pump or whatever that is. Can you guys hear the note in the background? So I'm using what I have that still works. You know, the shift for me, everybody says, man, it must have been so hard to relearn to play. You know, first of all, I had to get over the fact that I had lost all these abilities. You know, like I said in the video, I was losing my career in front of the public, you know, and I have no explanation. I wasn't diagnosed with dystonia for almost 3 years. From the time that I first started to notice, you know, boy, I'm really missing a lot of notes in this song, to the point that I actually had an answer or a reason. It was actually a little over 3 years for that time period. And initially, you know, like any of you guys who might have sporting, you know, dreams of playing sports or something like that, you know, if you blow out your shoulder and you can't pitch anymore and you spent your whole life trying to become a pitcher, you got to imagine that's unbelievably discouraging and disappointing and could really challenge you to stay positive and not fall into depression, right? Well, I went into a pretty intense depression because all I've ever wanted to do, as you guys saw, was play music. So here I am, almost 40 years old, and all of a sudden I can't play. And did you see that list of stuff that kind of fell out of my life? My record deal, my publishing deal, my agent, all of that stuff. And I was back to a point where I'd worked so hard not to ever sound like a beginner. And guess where I was? I was back being a beginner. Because I had to relearn every one of the pieces that I play left-handed. I had to let go of being Mr. Perfectionist. You know, when you play solo guitar concerts, if somebody plays a bad note on stage, everybody knows who played it, because it's a solo guitar concert, right? And so a lot of solo performers become real perfectionistic. They become perfectionists because nobody wants to ever play the wrong note. You always want to sound great. Well, let me tell you, as we all get older in life, none of us want to sound like we're beginners or amateurs. We all want to sound great, and so that perfectionism is something that actually held me back, because I thought, you know what, I could never, ever get good again on the guitar. you guys right-handed players? Have you ever picked up a lefty guitar? Does it feel totally, completely crazy, or what? And if you think of it, the skill sets in each hand, one of the reasons why I've been able to keep going with my music despite just dystonia, when most performers get dystonia, is a deal killer. It's a career ender. And if you think about piano for a second, the skill set in each hand on piano is rather similar, isn't it? If not identical, right? The skill set, the muscle movement. So if you lose one hand, if you lose two fingers on one hand, you really aren't able to perform the tasks necessary to make music, right? Well, in the case of guitar, if you think about the skill sets of a normal player, the skill sets are really very different, aren't they? I mean, you've got these fingers out and extended and getting on the fingertips and hitting the string, and you've got this hand, and here's where all the magic is. Boy, that pick hand, that's hard stuff to teach, man. And in my style, the skill sets are very different. And it wasn't until I stopped thinking about what was broken, and I really started, in other words, it wasn't until I stopped thinking about all the things I couldn't do anymore, and started thinking about, well, what are the things I can do? And what are the skills that I do have that I can build on? So I don't know if you guys are, if some of you are at what you would call, you know, maybe you call yourself a beginner, maybe you call yourself an intermediate player. But no matter what level you're at, like I said earlier, you've got a certain set of skills that you can put to use, and you've got certain things that you can build on. And hopefully, you're thinking about and dreaming about and wanting to play beautiful music, despite whatever your current level is. And so for me, just getting the guitar and doing this, with this hand, well actually, you know what was really freaky? Was cutting my fingernails. After always growing my fingernails for 30 years, and gluing on ping pong balls when I break one, and having my hand in this position, just to take my guitar to my repair guy and say, Ron, you've been taking care of this guitar for 20 years. I need you to do something for me. I want you to cut the saddle and refit it so that I can play it left-handed. And he just looked at me like, are you nuts? And I'm like, no, but I've got dystonia and I've got to do something. I had to start over. So if you just look at this style, the way that I'm playing, one finger, just take one string, and you just hit it. Now you can hear it pretty well because of the electronics, but actually, you can still hear it, right? It's not the electronics making it, it's the guitar and my finger, right? Okay, so once you hit that string, you got two choices. You can either pick up quietly, or when you pick up, did you hear the open string? What do you call that, you guys? A pull-up. Okay, that's kind of cool. Just hitting one string, a couple of different locations. You guys realize that was Journey? She's just a small town girl, living in a lonely world. So even though I'm only using one finger at that point on this hand, can I still make music? Absolutely. Might not be your favorite song. Now what about this hand over here? Is there anything? You know, I don't always use two fingers. This finger still feels real shaky to me, but I will do alternating bass lines.